All right, welcome back to Sub 2 Investor. My name is Hans, and in this episode, I'll be talking about how to purchase Sub 2 and seller financing deals for free by leveraging wholesalers and using equity partnerships in trusts to do so. Check out how in my 7 subject to deal, which I'll be talking about in this video, we had no money to the wholesaler up front to buy the deal. Rather, we cut them in as a cash flow partner. So stay tuned to find out how we did this and how you can do it on your subject to deals, so you can be little to no dollars out of pocket on these creative finance opportunities. This is deal 7 of my real Sub 2 deal breakdown series. In this series, I am going through actual life subject to deals I've closed, not just Sub 2 deals, but seller finance deals as well, and more on that to come in future deals ahead. But I'm showing you the ins and outs of the deals I've personally closed to help you, the newer to creative finance investor, see what goes into these kinds of deals and how they actually play out in reality so that you can jumpstart your real estate investing business. Now, this deal number 7, the 7th creative finance deal I ever closed on the buy side, that is on the acquisition side. This was a great deal from the standpoint of the debt we were taking over. Again, this was during the days of COVID, so we did do a loan modification. Rather, we didn't actually do it. The seller did a loan modification in this deal to get us to a 3.125 interest rate. Phenomenal interest rate, whereas previously, I believe the seller was sitting around like 6.5 or something like that. What is very cool as well is that with this loan modification on this Sub 2 deal, the lender made it a 40-year amortization, which made our monthly payment, the Sub 2 monthly payment that we were taking over, even lower for each month. So that has increased the cash flow on this deal. And the cash flow on this deal, I'll go over the numbers in more detail on a subsequent episode. It cash flows us net $450 a month. That's after expenses and our payment to our equity partner, who was the wholesaler who brought us this deal. So stay tuned to find out what the paperwork looks like. Well, at least I'll show you an example of how to structure an equity partnership like this. Stick around to the end of the video to see a specific example. Now, I must confess that I did a rehab on this property. I think it cost us, might have been about $12,000, and there was some sweat equity involved. And you guys know how much I absolutely love, and by love I mean not love, doing major rehabs. So I guess this point merits a little bit of comment just to the fact that I was wanting to get more of these deals under my belt at this time in my investing career. And so I was willing to buy a property that needed work because the debt was phenomenal. I could get in with no money into the deal besides the rehab that I was going to put in. And my goal was to recoup on an option fee or a down payment at least most, or if not all, of the funds I'd put into the rehab on this property. Even if it took a month of my time or so to get the property in good shape, it was worth it to me at this stage in my career to put that sweat equity into the rehab, to see this deal through, to get it closed, to get it performing. And on retrospect, I do think it was worth it, but I could also see a case for maybe taking a pass on this deal because of all the time that the rehab took. If I had contracted everything out, I don't think the numbers really would have worked very well. So I'd probably have to pass on this particular deal. So for you in your particular situation where you're at in your investing business and career, you're just going to have to make a discretionary call and really just kind of own your decision on if you're going to take down properties that need a lot of work, and if you're going to spend a lot of time doing the rehab, that might slow you down in terms of the velocity of stacking these deals up to get to your cash flow goal. But for me in my stage, I was just aiming to get more of these things done, and there weren't any other opportunities at the moment. And so this one came up, I took it, and maybe it was a good decision, maybe it wasn't. You can decide on a future episode where I show you the rehab and break down the numbers so you can see for yourself. But in this episode, I'm just kind of letting you know where I was at, what I was thinking when I bought this property. This lead was brought to me by another investor who had it under contract. This investor was also a wholesaler from time to time. They would wholesale properties. They were also a real estate investor, but they had this one under contract, subject subject to, and they were in contact with the seller, obviously, but they had actually spent some funds to clear the house out, to haul out all of the garbage and the junk that the seller had accumulated over the years, because the seller was a pretty severe hoarder, and every single room in the house was stacked high with personal possessions that they did not want to part with. So this wholesaler ended up spending several $1,000s just on a haul out. So part of our deal, when he brought this property to me, basically what happened was he knew, the wholesaler knew I was looking for subject to deals to buy, and this particular deal was too much to bite off for the wholesaler in terms of the rehab. He knew that it would take quite a bit of time to get it up and running, and it wasn't worth his time. And in fact, this was a more experienced investor than me, and so he didn't really need this deal as much as I needed it. I was just beginning to build my portfolio. This was my 7th sub-2 deal, so I wanted to take the opportunity, and I really kind of don't want to work with the investor and partner with him because I value that relationship. But he called me and he said, "Hans, do you want to come and walk this property and just see if you'd like to buy it from me, and we can work out a deal?" And now I didn't know what the deal would entail, what he was going to propose. I got in my car, I drove over to the property, met him, and I walked the property. This is something I suggest you do if you're beginning, starting out, just go walk properties that wholesalers are selling so that you can actually meet some of these wholesalers face to face, establish a relationship. They're more likely to send you a deal, maybe exclusively, or they're just more likely to do business with you if you do that. So I went and I got in my car, I walked this property, and I determined that I'd probably want to buy it pending the loan modification because the seller was behind on payments. It was a high interest rate. It wasn't going to cash flow very well. So if the seller could get approved on a loan modification, then I could buy this thing. And in the next episode, I'll talk about how we self-closed this deal. And one of the reasons we did that was because we wanted to get going on the rehab, but we didn't want to close before the loan modification was done. So that's a whole different story. I went over to the property, walked it, needed a lot of work. I'll show you some photos here in a second so you can see what I'm talking about. Basically, we got to the drawing table and it was like, all right, we need to determine what's a fair breakdown if I'm going to buy this deal ultimately. And so what we ended up doing was basically we always buy subject to deals in trust. So when you buy a subject to deal in a trust, a revocable trust, it's very easy to structure equity partners within a revocable trust. And so that's what we decided to do with this particular deal because we could not afford to pay a wholesale fee up front for this deal. It needed too much work. We would be cash negative after we placed a tenant buyer. We would still be way too much cash out of pocket to pay any kind of wholesale fee. Even $2,000 would be too much because of the amount of work it needed. So we agreed that we wouldn't pay the wholesaler anything up front to buy this deal, but we would cut him in as a percentage, a certain percentage as an equity partner. In other words, a beneficial owner, a certain percentage as beneficial owner in the trust that took title to the property. That might seem a little bit complicated, but again, it's pretty standard stuff to be closing subject to deals in trusts. It's commonly taught. It's how we do it. And if you don't know how to do it, then it might be something I can help you figure out. But how we determined what the exact percentage of ownership would be for the wholesaler, that's a deal by deal kind of thing. Because this property needed so much work, also we were going to be the ones managing the tenant or the tenant buyer who we ended up placing in the property, and we needed to also negotiate with the seller and help her do the loan modification and actually close the deal with her with our paperwork. We had a lot of tasks. Basically, we were doing the lion's share of the work, and the only thing that the wholesaler did was get the lead, get the deal under contract, and then assign it to us effectively, and he did a haul out that cost him about $3,000. So that meant something for sure. So for all of that, we agreed on a 25% ownership stake in the property. Now, maybe leave a comment and let me know, was that too high? Did we give him too good of a deal, or was that too low? Should we have given him more? Somewhat subjective, but it's going to vary deal by deal. So for example, if this property was totally rent ready, renovated, ready to go, I could place somebody in that property and begin generating income off of the property right away, then I'd be willing to definitely increase how much beneficial ownership he had in the property, because he went out, he got the lead, he got the contract, and then I don't have to do any rehab to the house. I can make it operational right away. If he has the paperwork, all the right paperwork, and willing to just do everything with the seller, with the title company to get it closed, then for sure I might be willing to go maybe 40 or 50% in with him. He could be a 50% owner, I could be a 50% owner. He got the lead, he closed the deal, and it doesn't need any rehab. I can come in, I can take it, I can place somebody in there, I can generate income, and I can operate it. It seems like a pretty fair split. Maybe 50-50 would be fair in a case like that. So if you're a wholesaler and you're watching this and you're looking to get into creative finance, maybe think of it from a couple different angles. Like, do you want to be the sub-2 mastermind who has the vision for how this whole business model works? And do you want to be actually closing these things and operating them and seeing them through from beginning to end? Or are you really just an awesome wholesaler and you're really good at it? All the complications and nuances and the sort of arcane nature of seller financing, it is complicated when you get into the nuts and bolts. Maybe that all just seems very daunting and you don't want to deal with it. If that's the case, then man, partnering up with somebody who does creative finance can be an amazing opportunity if you can establish a solid relationship, if they're trustworthy people and you guys can do business together. You'll do a lot of deals. So you bring the deal and then the creative guy comes and he generates the income off of the deal, and you guys can basically split the deals and both own them in trusts. So let me get to that. So what exactly does this mean to be a beneficial owner in a trust? Well, basically, when we buy subject to deals, we close them in trusts, in revocable trusts. Now, I'm not an attorney and this is not legal advice. Go consult an attorney, okay? But by closing a subject to deal in trust, it creates a sort of smokescreen for the lender. They're not able to see your LLC's information. They just see that a trust owns the property, and for all they know, the seller might have just transferred the deed into the name of a trust for estate planning purposes. But when you close in a trust, when you buy subject to, which is what I would advise one to do, it makes it very convenient to bring in equity partners, whether they be funding equity partners if they want to stick in the deal and not just be a lender, but an actual equity stakeholder in the property. Then you can easily do that within a trust. Same thing with wholesalers or people who bring you these leads. If the deal can't afford an assignment fee or a consulting fee or some sort of cash to that wholesaler to make them whole, no pun intended, well then if a deal can't afford that up front, then you can offer an alternative option to cut them in as a cash flow partner, an equity partner, and not just cash flow partner. I mean, suppose you could write the terms of this equitable ownership however you want, but they would actually have an equitable stake, meaning if that property appreciates with time or gains value, then they would have ownership of that equity as well. But again, it really comes down to how you write the terms and structure the partnership, and that's all very crucial to make sure you do it the right way. Let me just show you the photos of this property real quick, and then I'll get to the paperwork example. All right, so horrendous bathroom, laminate countertops, plumbing was messed up, ceiling was messed up too with a water leak from the bathroom above. Kitchen was a total wreck. I can't wait to show you after photos of what we did with some of this stuff. You know, guys, for all the dissing I diss toward rehabbing, I'm glad that I've done a significant amount of rehabs now, because it does help in terms of being able to make decisions and do things quickly on the fly when you need to do them, but this was a lot of work. This is looking the other way in the kitchen, had some water issues, the washer leaking. Just the whole thing needed to be painted from top to bottom. That flooring was jacked up from some water and needed to be replaced. And that paneling on the side of the wall, horrendous and outdated, needed to be painted or updated. I can't wait to show you the after photos, but just get a sense for how much work. I mean, leave a comment below. How much would you need to spend in a rehab to get this thing retail ready? Man, what did I tell you we spent? Was it 15? Was it 12? I think it might have been $12,000, and you're going to be amazed at what we were able to do with $12,000. I'm really excited to actually go through this one in terms of just a rehab perspective. We did some real pig on the lipstick kind of thing in this one and got it looking really nice, really nice. Did I say pig on the lipstick? I meant lipstick on the pig. All right, so that gives you a sense for the property was a fixer-upper. There's no beating around the bush on that one. So let me now show you the paperwork that we use to structure the equity partnership with the wholesaler. All right, now this is just an example. I've basically redacted the entire thing. And again, I'm not an attorney. Go seek legal counsel if you're going to do this. So here is the first page of the document that we would use. As you see right here, assignment and transfer of beneficial interest in trust. That's what the document's called, and let's just take a look at it. So we have My Amazing Real Estate LLC. That's going to just be the name of your LLC. The assigner, the undersigned, being the owners of 100% of the beneficial interest in a trust created pursuant to a trust agreement dated October 20th, 2023, and known as 123 Main Street Revocable Trust, which names John Brown, for example, these are all just made up things, as the trustee. Hereby assign, transfer, and convey 25% of our interest of the beneficial interest in said trust over into my Wholesalers LLC, the assignee. So they are becoming 20% owners of this trust that holds title to the property that we bought subject to, who hereafter shall be entitled to all the rights of the beneficial owner and shall be required to perform all of the duties and meet all of the obligations of the beneficial owner of said trust. Now, before I get a bunch of folks reaching out and asking for all of this paperwork that we've created for buying property subject to, just know that I do have a mentorship program in which this paperwork is provided as part of the program. I can't just give it away for free because I've spent so much time, money, and effort on it, but it is part of the program if you want the full thing. If you want the full Sub2 paperwork package, then just reach out to me, Hans@sub2investor.com, and I'll give you the details. Whereas the assigner desires to assign and transfer to the assignee 25% of assigner's beneficial interest in the trust. So let me just break this down. Our LLC, when we close a Sub2 deal, is the beneficial owner, 100% beneficial owner in most cases, of the trust, okay, of whatever the trust owns as property, which is the real estate. So our LLC is usually the 100% beneficial owner of the trust in which we hold title to the real estate that we buy subject to. Now, we're just cutting in this wholesaler 25%. We're sacrificing 25% of that ownership over to the wholesaler, which means any income that comes in through this deal is going to be theirs. Any equity that comes in is going to be theirs. So they're going to be 25% owner effectively. So then some more kind of legalese language right here, and then there's a space to lay out if you want to specify it's further agreed that, etc., etc., etc. Other crucial information, etc., etc., etc. Other covenants and commitments, any specific things to this deal that need to be hammered out in terms of sort of the operation between the two beneficial owners, us and the wholesaler, should and can be put in this document so that it kind of functions like an operating agreement, I suppose, if you were going to just create your own separate LLC for this property. But that's how we do it, or at least that's how we did it on this property, and that's how we've done it in subsequent deals in which we've had equity partners, whether it be funders or wholesalers or whomever. So hopefully that gives you just an insight into how exactly, if you're a wholesaler looking to get cut into some passive income, then that's what it might look like if you do it the way I do it. Or if you're a creative finance engineer and you're looking to bring funding partners or wholesalers into your deals, this is a way that you could theoretically do it. It's the way we do it. So basically, I'll do a deal breakdown on this particular deal, but what this means for the wholesaler is basically this, guys. All right. All this wholesaler had to do was find the lead, get a lead under contract. It was a good deal, good enough deal for us to buy it. Now he's going to get to cash flow off of this thing. I think it's $150 a month. And this deal's been performing, guys, for over a year now, probably close to a year and a half. He's made, I don't know what 150 multiplied by 18 months is. Okay, it's $2,700, right? Which isn't a big assignment fee at all, but this was a no equity deal that he wasn't going to wholesale anyways. Not only has he made $2,700 so far, this deal's likely going to go for a long time. So in another year and a half, he'll have made $5,400, and I haven't done the math, but if this deal goes for the average length that a sort of contract for deed, lease, option deal goes for, which is about 10 years, then this wholesaler would have made $18,000 just on the cash flow alone from this deal, plus the equity that we created by bumping that price up. So there's a back end payment for the wholesaler whenever our tenant buyer decides to refinance the property, sell, or whatever. So the wholesaler is going to make out really well on this deal. It's likely they'll make out probably $25,000 on a deal with zero equity, and on which all they had to do was lock it up, get it under contract, hand it over to us. Sounds pretty good to me. So if you like this video, if you found this interesting, helpful, perhaps inspired some ideas for you in your real estate investing business, then please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment and let me know what you thought about this. Was it helpful? Would you like to learn more about this kind of structuring of deals? And what else would you like to see in my future videos? If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I'm on my way. I'd like to be monetized here within several months. You guys are key in making it happen. And so that will help me create more videos and continue providing free and valuable content to you, which is why I created this channel in the first place. So stay tuned to find out what happened next on this deal. Stay creative. Peace.